This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Right from the beginning, most players are taught to see the fretboard in shapes. Like when we play this C major chord or this A minor pentatonic scale, we're not really thinking about the individual notes. We're thinking of the shape or pattern. And this is an excellent way to initially make sense of the fretboard and make things stick. But it's also going to close you off from really taking full advantage of everything that the guitar has to offer. If you enjoyed this lesson, you can watch the follow-up practice tips video and get a printable booklet of all the fretboard diagrams over on my Patreon. So an easy way to illustrate this is through the all-powerful major scale. There are a bunch of positions you can play it, but we're gonna focus on this shape here. Now we can play the exact same scale in the exact same octave on just the B string here as well. When we play across one string like this, things are laid out linearly just like a piano would work, where all the notes travel up or down in one straight line. You can almost imagine that each string on the guitar is its own little piano keyboard, starting and ending at different points. And the only takeaway I want you to have at this point is just to remember that you can access the exact same notes both vertically and horizontally. If we name the individual notes in our scale, it can give us a better idea of how this looks spread across the fretboard. Internalizing and understanding this is your first step in the right direction. It's 2025, and if you're doing anything online, having your own website is a must. Whether you want to share your music with the world, start a business, or anything else, Squarespace has you covered. I actually just set up my own new website using Squarespace, and it's made the whole process so much easier than I thought it would be. Squarespace's design intelligence is like having a professional designer at your disposal to help you create a site that perfectly fits your vibe. And if you're thinking about selling something like courses, a membership, or custom merch, you can do that directly on your site too. On top of all that, their payment tools are great, the setup is fast, and they've got all the payment options people actually use these days like Apple Pay and Klarna. So if you're ready to get started on your new website, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to my link to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I'll put that discount link in both the description and in the pinned comment. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the lesson. So the practicality of knowing that you can play a major scale on the B string is somewhat limited if you don't have a way to properly anchor it to something you know and use all the time. And if you've seen any of my other lessons, you can probably guess what that thing is. It's the ultra powerful position 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. And the positioning here just looks like this, where the 3rd, 4th, and 5th notes of the scale pass right through our vertical shape. And the reason we can use the A minor pentatonic over the C major scale is because A minor and C major are relative keys, meaning they contain all the same notes. And you can also see that our original major scale shape also exists right here as well. So now your goal is to be able to flow between your vertical scale and the horizontal scale you've just learned. So we're gonna pull up a backing track and walk through it together. But before we do that, if you want to add the remaining notes from the major scale back into the vertical pentatonic shape before working on this exercise, you can totally do that. Or you can keep it simple and just use the pentatonic, but here's both for reference. So here is the pentatonic. And then here is the full C major / A minor scale shape. Okay, let's pull up the track. Okay, so we'll start just by playing through both scales to hear how they sound over the music. They're both in the same key. This song is in C major / A minor, and there are 2 different chord progressions, but they're both in the same key, so this will all work over it. So our first vertical scale here. Let's double check with our full scale shape here as well. And then our horizontal. doesn't matter how quickly you play it. You can do this in half time or whatever makes you comfortable, okay? Now our goal is to go up our vertical scale and then carry on once we reach the B string up the horizontal scale. Now let's go all the way down. Now let's go up our horizontal scale, go a little slower, and then finish the vertical. And now we'll go down the vertical, and then carry on down the horizontal. Just like that. Now is the point where you just kind of get creative with it. Try and flow back and forth naturally between the two scales, however you see fit. Once you get the hang of going back and forth, there are a few different directions you can go with it. So let's look at our scale on the G string and see how that fits in. We'll go all the way back to our original little vertical major scale shape. And I find it's always best to start our scale from the root. So we'll build our scale from that first C note since we're already on the G string. Actually going to run out of room here on my fretboard diagram, so make sure you're watching the video so you can actually see how far I'm going. So again, and just to make sure that we're covering kind of the whole fretboard, we can actually go backwards and carry on our scale to fill up the rest of this space behind the C as well. Right, because it's the same as the 12th fret. And once again, we can look at this scale with the context of our full vertical shape again. With our horizontal scale. Now, our next step would be to fire up the jam track again and do the same thing we did before, flowing back and forth between the vertical and the horizontal scale on the G string. Nothing really new going on here, so I won't waste time showing you. Now, the last string we're going to look at is the high E string. We've done this a few times now already, so I'll just show you the complete shape here. So our C note is all the way up here, which kind of is bringing us out of our vertical scale already. So that's okay. We could go up. Again, you're not going to be able to see this on the fretboard diagram, but if you look at the actual video of me playing it, but we can also go down from the scale just to make sure we cover the whole fretboard. We don't quite get all the notes, right? Because that would be the same as the 12th. And that would be to kind of complete the scale, but it at least gives us the whole scale spanning this E string, and it covers across that vertical shape again. Just like that. Now, once again, you would want to pull up the track and practice going between the vertical shape and this horizontal shape on this string. Okay, we've reached the point where we can move into the final form of this exercise, and that is to practice improvising with these horizontal scales on their own and in combination with the other horizontal scales you've learned. The big key here is to use the vertical scale shape as your central connecting point between these horizontal scales so you don't get lost. So you don't have to be super experienced with improvising for this exercise. The whole goal here is to just play random notes from the scale and be thinking horizontally rather than always being stuck in that vertical position. And what we want to do is with that vertical position that we know, right, that one shape, that's going to be our pathway between each string. So when we're traveling from one string to the other, we're going to use that pathway. So we go to the B string, we play our scale like this, let's say. Well, I probably don't know how to jump up to my E string or down to my G string and know that I'm definitely going to hit the right notes right away. So what I'm going to do I'm gonna travel down into my vertical shape and use that. And then the whole point of this exercise is just to start actually improvising and coming up with melodies. So you can stick to one string if you want for a while, but whenever you want to switch strings, try and use that vertical shape as your path between them, and then work on only playing horizontally. Something like this. So feel free to be as creative as you want with this exercise. There's no hard and fast rules. If you want to just stick to one string or maybe just two, that's totally fine. If you just want to play up and down the scale, it's no big deal. Your main goal here is to just get comfortable with these horizontal shapes and be able to visualize them alongside the vertical shapes that you already know. Now you can totally work on this with other songs or backing tracks as well. And the key to doing this is to use that vertical shape as your main reference point to line everything up. It'll tell you exactly how your horizontal scales will fit into the key because they're just attached to it. So if we move this up to the key of D major or B minor, it would just look like this. All the distances would stay the same, and your vertical shape ties these patterns together no matter where you are. So the B string would look like this. You can see it's all the same. We've got the 3, 4, and 5. We've got the G string here as well. And then we've got the E string. Everything just gets shifted up. So I'm gonna keep the camera rolling here and make a follow-up video where I talk about practice, tips, connections, and next steps for Patreon. So if you're already a part of the community, I will see you over there. And if not, we'd love to have you join us. If you'd rather stay on YouTube, I think this lesson on 3 of my favorite daily guitar exercises would also be a good next step. Big thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.